Be ready. Start. There does indeed have to be a compromise between the interest of freedom of expression and special interests, but we cannot simply balance the two interests as if they are of equal weight. Our commitment of freedom of expression demands that it cannot be suppressed unless the situations created by allowing the freedom are pressing and the community interest is endangered. The anticipated danger should not be remote, conjectural, or far fetched. It should have proximate and direct nexus with the expression. The expression of thought should be intrinsically dangerous to the public interest. In other words, the expression should be inseparably locked up with the action contemplated like the equivalent of a spark in a power keg where the court applies the test of proximate and direct nexus with the expression, the court also has to keep in mind that the restriction should be founded on the principle of least invasiveness, that is, the restriction should be imposed in a manner and to the extent which is unavoidable in a given situation. The court would also take into consideration whether the anticipated event would or would not be intrinsically dangerous to public interest. No person can be divested of his fundamental rights. They are incapable of being taken away or abridged. All that the state can do by exercise of its legislative power is to regulate these rights by imposition of reasonable restrictions on them. The questions before us, thus, are whether the restriction imposed was reasonable and whether the purported purpose of the same squarely fell within the relevant clauses discussed above. The legislative determination of what restriction to impose on a freedom is final and conclusive as it is not open to judicial review. The judgments of this court have been consistent in taking the view that it is difficult to define or explain the word reasonable with any precision. It will always be dependent on the facts of a given case with reference to the law which has been enacted to create a restriction on the right. It is neither possible nor advisable to state any abstract standard or general pattern of reasonableness as applicable uniformly to all cases. A common thread runs through parts 3, 4, and 4A of the Constitution of India. One part enumerates the fundamental rights, the second declares the fundamental principles of governance, and the third lays down the fundamental duties of the citizens. While interpreting any of these provisions, it shall always be advisable to examine the scope and impact of such interpretation on all the three constitutional aspects emerging from these parts. It is necessary to be clear about the meaning of the word fundamental as used in the expression fundamental in the governance of the state to describe the directive principles which have not legally been made enforceable. Thus, the word fundamental has been used in two different senses under our Constitution of India. The essential character of the fundamental rights is secured by limiting the legislative power and by providing that any transgression of the limitation would render the offending law pro tanto void. The word fundamental in Article 37 of the Constitution also means basic or essential, but it is used in the normative sense of setting before the state goals which it should try to achieve. As already noticed, the significance of the fundamental principles stated in the directive principles have attained greater significance through judicial pronouncements. As difficult as it is to anticipate the right to any freedom or liberty without any reasonable restriction, equally difficult is it to imagine the existence of a right not coupled with a duty. The duty may be a direct or indirect consequence of a fair assertion of the right. Although Part 3 of the Constitution of India confers rights, still the duties and restrictions are inherent thereunder. These rights are basic in nature and are recognized and guaranteed as natural rights inherent in the status of a citizen of a free country, but are not absolute in nature and uncontrolled in operation. Each one of these rights is to be controlled, curtailed, and regulated to a certain extent by laws made by the parliament or the state legislature. In spite of there being a general presumption in favor of the constitutionality of a legislation under challenge in case of allegations of violation of the right to freedom guaranteed by Clause 1 of Article 19 of the Constitution, on a prima facie case of such violation being made out, the onus shifts upon the state. Thank you.